In August of this year, before I started school at Yale and US, I set out a couple of goals for myself for the rest of 2020. One of those goals was being more consistent with and improving much more at Japanese. That's why at the start of the new college semester, I registered for a Japanese class and even announced on my YouTube community tab that I was going to do another Japanese progress video. This right here is some footage of me that was supposed to be in that very video. So my goals for this challenge are going to be very simple. Fundamentally, I just want my Japanese to be at a higher level than it is right now. How I'm going to measure that is by having a conversation with a Japanese native speaker or someone who's very good at Japanese at the end of this challenge. But since then, I'm going to fully admit that I fell off the bandwagon and I didn't stay consistent with all the things I needed to do to improve my Japanese. I did the weekly homework for my Japanese class, and that was about it. I didn't put in the constant effort outside of class that I knew was necessary to really get good at the language. All of the good habits that I had built over quarantine, such as listening to Japanese and practicing my flashcards every day, kind of fell to the wayside. So my grades dipped a bit, or a lot bit, and in terms of my Japanese, the semester is basically over and I am at the same level that I was 3 months ago. And for a little while, I'm going to honestly admit that I was a little bit frustrated at myself for letting myself lose the momentum that I had built over the quarantine period, learning Japanese on my own, and not fully taking advantage of a formal class setting to really get better at Japanese. But then I was reading through the comments of my previous Japanese video, and I realized that a lot of people are also facing the same difficulties with staying consistent with the language learning. After doing some thinking around this, I realized that actually it's not a failure on our part when we fall off the bandwagon, and I've learned a couple of lessons from this that I thought would be useful to share with you guys who are struggling through the same thing that I am. Firstly, different seasons in your life are meant for different things. Just like how we shouldn't compare ourselves to other people, we shouldn't compare our present selves to our past selves, because our past selves could have been going through a very different life stage. For example, in my case, I've spent the past semester here doing exchange at Yale and US College, which you might have known if you watched my previous video that I'll link up over here. Like I said in that video, I've been spending a lot of time on my social life here at Yale and US, making a lot of friends, taking the time to make pancakes for my sweetmates for breakfast, or just playing cards with them on the weekend. All of this means that I had less time to focus on other academic and personal goals like learning Japanese. And honestly, I'm okay with that, because I would not trade anything for the memories that I've made with the people around me this semester. Just like there are seasons in nature, I believe that there are seasons in our lives as well. Some phases are really meant for hustling and deepening your knowledge and growth, and I think others are meant for adaptation and change, whilst others are meant for slowing down and reflection. That's why I'm glad I granted myself the grace to just experience this season in life fully and unapologetically, even if it meant I didn't spend that much time studying Japanese. Number 2, I think it's alright not to achieve every single goal that you set. Sometimes you set goals and life just gets in the way, or it isn't even the right goal for yourself to begin with. For me, I personally set goals because I want to challenge myself and I want to make sure that I'm living every single day with intention. I want to be lying on my deathbed and looking back at my life, seeing a life that was filled with me trying new things and trying to become a better person every single day. That's why I think I set a goal for myself to learn Japanese during the quarantine when I didn't really have anything else to do in my life, and I just wanted to challenge myself to continually learn and grow even if I was stuck at home. But this past semester, I was in school, and so I was experiencing new things, taking new classes, making new friends, and I would still say that I lived my life to my fullest, even if I didn't spend my semester focusing as much as I could have on Japanese. And this past semester, that was an exchange that I was willing to make. Thirdly, I really think we should try and reframe the way that we look at progress. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't take Japanese as seriously as I could have this semester. But if I reframe the way that my mind looks at progress, it is still true that I've gotten exposure to some new grammar concepts that I did not know 3 months ago. And so in some way, I'm a little bit further along than I was when I started this entire process. Yeah, maybe I didn't do so well on my tests, but at the very least, now I have a better understanding of the kind of skills that I need to work on. For example, I know I'm not very good at reading Japanese characters, and that's something that I know I need to improve moving forward. Basically, I think it's very important for us to focus more on the process of learning rather than the outcomes, be it a test if you are taking a class or your personal goals that you set for yourself. I think in the long run, focusing, for example, on building a very good consistent habit of studying every day, or just overall focusing on the number of hours that you put in rather than the outcome, can get you a lot further along in your process of learning, no matter what it might be, whether it's Japanese or some other skill. Admittedly, I didn't work out a very good process-based approach to learning Japanese over this past semester. But rather than regretting that choice, I'd rather look at the past 3 months as the beginning step to a very long process of me learning Japanese over the long term. All I have to do is keep working at it in order to get better. The fourth thing that I've learned is that mastery does not have to be your ultimate objective. Growing up, I was that kid that tried everything but never really got very good at any one of them. I tried softball, ballet, swimming, art, theater, singing, you name it, I probably tried it. But after a while, I got bored or I got frustrated that I wasn't progressing fast enough and I would move on. Even up to this day, sometimes I wish I took those pursuits more seriously and that I had the perseverance to just sit down and get really good at one skill. Sometimes I look at my cousins or my friends who spent 10 years playing one instrument and gotten really good at it, and I feel frustrated at my younger self for not doing the same. But when I think about it, trying out many different things and not really getting good at one of them isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe I tried out a bunch of different hobbies just because I was a very curious child. It fed my curiosity, taught me to adopt a growth mindset, and it helped me to learn skills relatively quickly. And also, there are a lot of skills that I picked up in one thing that were transferable to others. For example, playing one sport helped me develop good hand-eye coordination, strength, stamina, flexibility, and overall athleticism that I could apply to other sports that I picked up later on in life. In our society, I think we put so much emphasis on results and productivity, and in this case, what that looks like is really highlighting those people who get really very good at one thing, who become very specialized. And that's not to say that, we should dismiss all the hard work and effort that they put into really honing their craft. But I think it's also just as important to realize that even if you picked up a skill and never really got very good at it, that doesn't mean that we should not pick it up. What's wrong for learning something just for the sake of it, just because you're interested in it, even if it's only for the short term? I'm not saying that this gives us license to be lazy and slack off and not work towards our goals, but I think also we don't have to spend our entire lives hustling towards our goals. Life is long and we can take time to just enjoy the process of learning things just for the heck of it. And finally, I think I've learned just to take responsibility for your actions and move on. It's 100% true that I did not take learning Japanese this semester as seriously as I could have. But instead of lying around and feeling bad about it and regretting my decisions, I would very much rather just look forward and see how I can improve. Maybe this past semester, I didn't like the way that classes were structured. Then I should create my own study plan moving forward. Maybe I feel like this past semester, there wasn't enough oral communication, which is my favorite part of learning a language. Then in the future, I can incorporate more conversations with native speakers that I find on my own time. I would much rather take the learnings that I've had this past semester and apply it to my future rather than sitting around and crying over spilled milk. Everything I shared previously isn't an excuse for us to be lazy, but I know all of you watching are very hardworking individuals. And so let this be a reminder to you to be kind to yourself. We don't always have to be hustling and working towards our goals. And if we fall off the bandwagon, well, we just learn from it and get back on. I personally do intend to continue learning Japanese on my own because taking classes are way too stressful with the grades and everything. So definitely subscribe and stick around if you'd be interested in watching more Japanese or general language learning videos. Other than that, I will see you guys real soon and I wish you all the best in your language learning journey. Bye.